Bingley. Allow me the pleasure of welcoming you to our little assembly here.
Sir William, I'm very glad to see you. But there's nothing that I love better than a country dance.
Only two ladies then, after all. Do you know who they are, Charlotte?
Mr. Bingley's sisters, I understand. One of them is married to the gentleman there, a Mr. Hurst.
The taller gentleman?
No, the other.
Better and better. Very elegant. Better pleased with themselves than what they see, I think. Lizzy! Jane! Come here. You see that gentleman there? Lady Lucas has just told me he's Mr. Bingley's oldest friend. His name is Darcy, and he has a mighty fortune and a great estate in Derbyshire. Bingley's wealth is nothing to his. 10,000 a year at least. Don't you think he's the handsomest man you've ever seen, girls?
I wonder if he'd be quite so handsome if he was not quite so rich.
Oh, Lizzy, oh Lord, they're coming over. Smile, girls, smile.
Mrs. Bennet, Mr. Bingley has expressed a wish to become acquainted with you and your daughters.
Sir, that is very good of you. This is Jane, my eldest, and Elizabeth, and Mary sits over there, and Kitty and Lydia, my youngest, you see they're dancing. Do you like to dance yourself?
There is nothing I love better, madam. And if Miss Bennet is not otherwise engaged, may I be so bold as to claim the next two dances?
I am not engaged, sir.
Good.
You do us great honor, sir. Thank the gentleman, Jane. And you, sir, are you fond of dancing too?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Mrs. Bennet, may I present my friend, Mr. Darcy?
You are very welcome to Hertfordshire, I am sure, sir. And I hope you have come here eager to dance, as your friend has.
Thank you, madam. I rarely dance.
Well, let this be one of the occasions, sir, for I wager you'll not easily find such lively music or such pretty partners.
Pray, excuse me, ma'am.
Well, did you ever meet such a proud, disagreeable man?
Ma, he will hate you.
I don't care if he does. And his friend disposed to be so agreeable and everything charming. Who is he to think himself so far above his company?
Well, the very rich can afford to give offence wherever they go. We need not care for his good opinion.
No, indeed.
Perhaps he's not so very handsome after all.
No, indeed. Quite ill-favoured. Certainly nothing at all to Mr. Bingley.
I see that Mr. Bingley continues his attentions to Jane, Lizzy.
I'm very happy for her, Charlotte.
She does seem very well pleased with him.
I think if he continues so, she's in a fair way to be very much in love with him.
And Mr. Bingley, do you think he is in love?
It is clear that he likes her very much.
Then she should leave him in no doubt of her heart. She should show more affection, even than she feels, not less, if she is to secure him.
Secure him, Charlotte.
Yes, she should secure him as soon as may be.
Before she is sure of his character, before she's even certain of her own regard for him.
But of course. Happiness in marriage is entirely a matter of chance, you know. There will always be vexation and grief. And it is better to know in advance as little as possible of the defects of your marriage partner. Is it not now?
You know it is not sound. You would never act like that yourself.
Well, it seems that Jane will not. So we must hope that Mr. Bingley will. I think he gets little encouragement from his sisters.
Or his friend.
Mr. Darcy looks at you a great deal, Lizzy.
I cannot think why. Unless he means to frighten me with his contempt. I wish he would not come into society. He only makes people uneasy.
What a charming amusement for young people this is, Mr. Darcy. Nothing like dancing, you know. One of the refinements of every polished society.
And every unpolished society.
So,
Every savage can dance.
oh, yeah. It's quite...
I think I should speak to my sister before she exposes us all to ridicule.
Capital, capital. Oh, Miss Eliza. Why are you not dancing? Mr. Darcy, allow me to present this young lady to you as a very desirable partner. You cannot refuse to dance, I'm sure, when so much beauty is before you.
Indeed, sir, I've not the least intention of dancing. Please don't suppose that I moved this way in order to beg for a partner.
I would be very happy if you would do me the honor of dancing with me, Miss Bennet.
Thank you. But excuse me, I am not inclined to dance.
Come, why not? When you see Mr. Darcy has no objection, although he dislikes the amusement so much in general.
Mr. Darcy is all politeness.
He is. And why should he not be, considering the inducement? For who could object to such a partner, eh, Darcy?
Beg you would excuse me.
Well, oh, capital, Lydia, capital.
I believe I can guess your thoughts at this moment.
I should imagine not.
You are thinking how insupportable it would be to spend many evenings in such tedious company.
No, indeed, my mind was more agreeably engaged. I've been meditating on the very great pleasure which a pair of fine eyes in the face of a pretty woman can bestow.
And may one dare ask, whose are the eyes that inspired these reflections?
Miss Elizabeth Bennet's.
Miss Elizabeth Bennet. I am all astonishment.
I must confess, I thought I should never escape your younger sisters.
They can be very determined. Lydia, especially.
But they're pleasant girls. Indeed, I find that society in Hertfordshire quite exceeds my expectations. I don't see Mr. Bingley and his friends here this evening.
I think some of Mr. Bingley's friends would consider it beneath their dignity.
Really? Have you known Mr. Darcy long?
About a month.
I've known him all my life. We played together as children.
But
Yes, you're surprised. Perhaps you might have noticed the cold manner of our greeting.
I confess I did.
Are you much acquainted with Mr. Darcy?
As much as I ever wished to be. I've spent 3 days in the same house with him, and I find him very disagreeable.
I fear there are few who would share that opinion, except myself.
But he's not at all liked in Hertfordshire. Everybody is disgusted with his pride.
Do you know... Does he intend to stay long at Netherfield?
I do not know. But I hope his being in the neighborhood will not affect your plans to stay.
Thank you. But it is not for me to be driven away by Mr. Darcy. If he wishes to avoid seeing me, he must go. Oh, we are not on friendly terms, but I have no reason to avoid him but one. He has done me great wrong. His father, Miss Bennet, the late Mr. Darcy, was my godfather and one of the best men that ever breathed. My father was his steward. And when he died, old Mr. Darcy cared for me, provided for me, loved me, I believe, as though I were his own son. He intended me for the church. And it was my dearest wish to enter into that profession. But after he died, and the living he had promised me fell vacant, the son refused, point blank, to honor his father's promises. And so, you see, I have to make my own way in the world.
This is quite shocking. I had not thought Mr. Darcy as bad as this. To descend to such malicious revenge, he deserves to be publicly disgraced.
Someday he will be, but not by me. Till I can forget his father, I can never defy or expose him.
I wonder at the pride of this man. How abominable. You are more temperate than I should be in your situation.
Well, I've not the resentful temper that some men have. And my situation, you know, is not so bad. At present, I have every cause for cheer. I cannot bear to be idle, and my new profession gives me active employment. My fellow officers are excellent men, and now I find myself in a society as agreeable as any I've ever known. You see, I absolutely forbid you to feel sorry for me.
Lizzy? Lizzy, why should you feel sorry for Mr. Wickham?
Why? Because I've not had a dance these 3 months together.
Poor Mr. Wickham. Well, you shall have one now. Mary, the barley mow. Oh, Mr. Colin.
We each have an unsocial, taciturn disposition. I'm willing to speak unless we expect to say something that will amaze the whole room.
This is no very striking resemblance of your own character, I'm sure. Do you often walk into Meryton?
Yes, quite often. When you met us the other day, we'd just been forming a new acquaintance.
Mr. Wickham has the happy manners that enable him to make friends. Whether he's equally capable of keeping them is less certain.
He's been unlucky as to lose your friendship in a way he's likely to suffer from all his life.
Allow me to congratulate you, sir. Such superior dancing is rarely to be seen. I'm sure you'll own your fair partner is well worthy of you. I hope to have this pleasure often repeated, especially when a certain desirable event takes place. Eh, Miss Lizzy? What congratulations will then flow in?
Sir, I...
Nay, I understand. I'll not detain you one moment longer from your bewitching partner, sir. With pleasure, sir. Capital, capital.
I remember hearing you once say that you hardly ever forgave, that your resentment once created was implacable. You are very careful, are you not, in allowing a resentment to be created?
I am.
And never allow yourself to be blinded by prejudice?
I hope not. May I ask to what these questions tend?
Merely to the illustration of your character. I'm trying to make it out.
And what is your success?
I do not get on at all. I hear such different accounts of you as to puzzle me exceedingly.
I wish, Miss Bennet, that you would not attempt to sketch my character at the present moment. I fear the performance would reflect no credit on either of us.
But if I don't take your likeness now, I may never have another opportunity.
I would by no means suspend any pleasure of yours. Mr. Wickham is the son of a very respectable man who had the management of our family estates, and my own father was fond of him and held him in high esteem. We played together as boys. After his father's early death, my father supported him at school and afterwards at Cambridge, and hoped he would make the church his profession. But by then, George Wickham's habits were as dissolute as his manners were engaging. My own excellent father died 5 years ago, and his attachment to Mr. Wickham was to the last so steady that he desired that a valuable family living might be his as soon as it was vacant. Mr. Wickham declined any interest in the church as a career, but requested and was granted the sum of £3,000 instead of the living. He expressed an intention of studying the law. I wished, rather than believed him to be sincere.
Thank you. I'm most exceedingly obliged.
All connection between us seemed now dissolved.
Georgiana.
Being now free from all restraint, his life was one of idleness and dissipation. How he lived, I know not. But last summer, our paths crossed again under the most painful circumstances, which I myself would wish to forget. My sister, Georgiana, who is more than 10 years my junior, was left to the guardianship of Colonel Fitzwilliam and myself. About a year ago, she was taken from school to Ramsgate and placed in the care of a Mrs. Young, in whose character we were most unhappily deceived. And thither also went Mr. Wickham, undoubtedly by design. She was persuaded to believe herself in love and to consent to an elopement. She was then but 15 years old. A day or two before the intended elopement, I joined them unexpectedly. Unable to support the idea of grieving a brother whom she looked up to almost as a father, she acknowledged the whole plan to me at once. You may imagine what I felt and how I acted. Mr. Wickham left the place immediately. Come. Mr. Wickham relinquished his object, which was, of course, my sister's fortune of £30,000. The secondary motive must have been to revenge himself on me. Had he succeeded, his revenge would have been complete indeed. This, madam, is a faithful narrative of all my dealings with Mr. Wickham. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you. In declaring myself thus, I am fully aware that I will be going expressly against the wishes of my family, my friends, and I hardly need add my own better judgment. The relative situation of our families is such that any alliance between us must be regarded as a highly reprehensible connection. Indeed, as a rational man, I cannot but regard it as such myself, but it cannot be helped. Almost from the earliest moments of our acquaintance, I have come to feel for you a passionate admiration and regard, which, despite all my struggles, has overcome every rational objection, and I beg you most fervently to relieve my suffering and consent to be my wife.
In such cases as these, I believe the established mode is to express a sense of obligation. But I cannot. I
have never desired your good opinion, and you have certainly bestowed it most unwillingly. I'm sorry to cause pain to anyone, but it was most unconsciously done, and I hope will be of short duration.
And this is all the reply I'm to expect. I might wonder why, with so little effort at civility, I'm rejected.
And I might wonder why, with so evident a desire to offend and insult me, you chose to tell me that you like me against your will, against your reason, and even against your character. Was this not some excuse for incivility if I was uncivil? I have every reason in the world to think ill of you. Do you think any consideration would tempt me to accept the man who's been the means of ruining the happiness of a most beloved sister? Can you deny that you have done it?
I have no wish to deny it. I did everything in my power to separate my friend from your sister, and I rejoice in my success. Towards him, I have been kinder than towards myself.
But it is not merely that on which my dislike of you is founded. Long before it had taken place, my dislike of you was decided when I heard Mr. Wickham's story of your dealings with him. How can you defend yourself on that subject?
You take an eager interest in that gentleman's concerns.
Who that knows what his misfortunes can be can help feeling an interest in him?
His misfortunes, yes, his misfortunes have been great indeed.
And of your infliction. You have reduced him to his present state of poverty, and yet you can treat his misfortunes with contempt and ridicule.
And this is your opinion of me. My faults by this calculation are heavy indeed. But perhaps these offences might have been overlooked had not your pride been hurt by the honest confession of the scruples which had long prevented my forming any serious design on you. Had I concealed my struggles and flattered you. But disguise of every sort is my abhorrence. Nor am I ashamed of the feelings I related. They were natural and just. Could you expect me to rejoice in the inferiority of your connections? To congratulate myself on the hope of relations whose condition in life is so decidedly below my own?
You're mistaken, Mr. Darcy. The motive of your declaration merely spared me any concern I might have felt in refusing you had you behaved in a more gentlemanlike manner. Mr. Darcy?
Miss Bennet. I
did not expect to see you, sir. We understood all the family were from home, or we should never have presumed.
I returned a day early. Excuse me, your parents are in good health?
Yes. They are very well. Thank you, sir.
I'm glad to hear it. How long have you been in this part of the country?
But 2 days, sir.
And where are you staying?
At the inn at Lambton?
Oh, yes, of course. Well, I'm just arrived myself. And your parents are in good health? And all your sisters?
Yes. They're all in excellent health, sir.
Excuse me.
The man himself, I presume.
Just as handsome as in his portrait, though perhaps a little less formally attired.
We must leave here at once.
Of course, if you wish.
Oh, I wish we'd never come. What must he think of me?
Was he displeased? What did he say?
Oh, nothing of consequence. He inquired after my parents and...
Miss Bennet, please allow me to apologise for not receiving you properly just now. You were not leaving.
We were, sir. I think we must.
I hope you're not displeased with Pemberley.
No, not at all.
Then you approve of it.
Very much. I think there are few who would not approve.
But your good opinion is rarely bestowed and therefore more worth the earning.
Thank you.
Can't tell you how delighted I was when Darcy told me you were not 5 miles from Pemberley. How do you do? But I can see that you're well.
Very well indeed, thank you.
Good. Good. Excellent. And your family?
Very well, sir.
Yes? Pray tell me, are all your sisters still at Longbourn?
All except one. My younger sister is at Brighton.
Ah. It seems too long. It is too long since I had the pleasure of speaking to you.
It must be several months.
It is above 8 months at least. We have not met since the 26th of November, when we were dancing together at Netherfield.
I think you must be right.
Do you know, I don't think I can remember a happier time than those short months I spent in Hertfordshire.
Miss Bennet, my sister has a request to make of you.
Miss Bennet, my brother and I would be honoured if you and your aunt and uncle would be our guests at Pemberley for dinner. Would tomorrow evening be convenient?
Thank you, we shall be delighted. I can answer for Mr. and Mrs. Gardner. We have no fixed engagements.
And shall we hear you play?
If you insist upon it, yes, you shall.
Absolutely marvellous.
Will you not play again? You played that song so beautifully.
Not very beautifully, not faithfully at all. You must have seen how I fudged and slurred my way through the difficult passages. It is a beautiful instrument, though.
My brother gave it to me this week. He is so good. I don't deserve it.
I'm sure you do. Your brother thinks you do. And as you know, he is never wrong. Now, it's your turn. Oh, I absolutely insist.
In front of all these people. I will play, but please don't make me sing.
If you like.
Pray, Miss Eliza, are the militia still quartered at Meryton?
No, they are encamped at Brighton for the summer. That must be a great loss for your family. We are enduring it as best we can, Miss Bingley.
I should have thought one gentleman's absence might have caused particular pangs.
I can't imagine who you mean. I understood that certain ladies found the society of Mr. Wickham curiously agreeable.
I'm so sorry. I'm neglecting you. How can you play with no one to turn the pages?
There, allow me.
I wished he could wear his red coat at the wedding and have a guard of honour with their sabres drawn. But the officers could not be spared from their duties. And in the end, there was no one there but my aunt and uncle and Mr. Darcy.
Mr. Darcy? Mr. Darcy was at your wedding?
Oh, yes. For someone had to come with Wickham and be groomsman. I'd much rather it had been Denny or one of our other friends. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord, I forgot. I wasn't to say a word. And I promised them so faithfully. What'll Wickham say now? It was supposed to be a secret.
My dear aunt, pray write and let me understand how he of all people should have been there, unless you too are bound in the secrecy which Lydia seems to think necessary.
My dear niece, I must confess myself surprised by your letter. If you were indeed in ignorance of the part that Mr. Darcy played in bringing about the marriage, let me enlighten you at once. Mr. Darcy paid us an unexpected visit. And so, my dear Lizzy, Mr. Darcy would brook no opposition. He insisted on doing everything himself and bearing the entirety of the expense. Nothing was to be done that he did not do himself. And your uncle, instead of being allowed to be of use to his niece, was forced to put up with having the credit of it.
I must be allowed to insist on this. The fault is mine, and so must the remedy be. It was through my mistaken pride, my reserve, that Mr. Wickham's character has not been made known to the world. Had I not thought it beneath me to lay my private actions open to the world, his character would have been exposed, and this elopement could never have taken place.
Mr. Darcy, I really believe you take too much upon yourself.
I must insist on this, sir. I assure you that in this matter, argument is fruitless. Responsibility is mine. I must have it, sir. I shall not give way.
My dear sister, I'm afraid I'm interrupting your solitary reverie.
You are indeed. But it doesn't follow that the interruption must be unwelcome.
I'd be sorry if it were. You and I were always good friends.
True.
Then, shall we take a turn together, sister? I was surprised to see Darcy in town last month. We passed each other several times. Wonder what he could be doing there.
Perhaps preparing for the wedding with Mr. Berg.
Yes, perhaps.
Must have been something particular to take him there at this time of year.
Undoubtedly. Did you see him while you were at Lambton? I thought I understood from the gardeners that you had.
Yes, he introduced us to his sister.
Did you like her?
Yes, I did like her, very much indeed.
Well, I have heard, indeed, that she has uncommonly improved within this last year or two. When I last saw her, she was not very promising. I'm glad you liked her. I hope she will turn out well.
I dare say she will. She's got over the most trying age.
Did you go by the village of Kimpton?
I don't recollect that we...
Oh, I mention it because it was the living I should have had.
And how should you have liked making sermons?
Exceedingly well.
I did hear that there was a time when sermon making was not so palatable to you as it seems to be at present. That you actually declared your resolution of never taking orders and were compensated accordingly.
Well...
Miss Bennet, do you know who I am? I have not been accustomed to such language as this. I am almost the nearest relation he has, and I am entitled to know all his nearest concerns.
But you are not entitled to know mine, nor will such behavior as this induce me to be explicit.
Let me be rightly understood. This match to which you have the presumption to aspire can never take place. Mr. Darcy is engaged to my daughter. Now, what have you to say?
Only this, that if he is so, you can have no reason to suppose he'll make an offer to me.
The engagement between them is of a peculiar kind. From their infancy, they have been intended for each other. It was the favorite wish of his mother as well as hers. While she was in her cradle, we planned the union. And now to be prevented by the upstart pretensions of a young woman without family connections or fortune. Is this to be endured? It shall not be. Your alliance would be a disgrace. Your name would never even be mentioned by any of us.
These would be heavy misfortunes indeed.
Obstinate, headstrong girl, I'm ashamed of you. I have not been in the habit of brooking disappointment.
That will make your ladyship's situation at present more pitiable, but it will have no effect on me.
I will not be interrupted. If you were sensible of your own good, you would not wish to quit the sphere in which you've been brought up.
Lady Catherine, in marrying your nephew, I should not consider myself as quitting that sphere. He is a gentleman, I am a gentleman's daughter. So far, we are equal.
But who is your mother? Who are your uncles and aunts? Do not imagine me ignorant of their condition.
Whatever my connections may be, if your nephew does not object to them, they can be nothing to you.
Tell me once and for all, are you engaged to him?
I am not.
And will you promise me never to enter into such an engagement?
I will make no promise of the kind, and I must beg you not to importune me any further on the subject.
Not so hasty, if you please. I have another objection. Your youngest sister's infamous elopement. I know it all. Oh, is such a girl to be my nephew's sister-in-law? Are the shades of Pemberley to be thus polluted?
You can have nothing further to say. You have insulted me by every possible method. I must beg to return to the house.
You have no regard, then, for the honor and credit of my nephew. Unfeeling, selfish girl. You refuse to oblige me. You refuse the claims of duty, honor, gratitude. You are determined to ruin him and make him the contempt of the world.
I am only resolved to act in a manner which will constitute my own happiness without reference to you or to any person so wholly unconnected with me.
And this is your final resolve? Very well, I shall know how to act. I take no leave of you, Miss Bennet. I send no compliments to your mother. You deserve no such attention. I am most seriously displeased. Drive on.
Lizzy, do you mind if I just run down the lane here to call on Mariah Lucas?
No, not at all. Mr. Darcy, I can go no longer without thanking you for your kindness to my poor sister. Ever since I have known of it, I have been most anxious to tell you how grateful I am for my family and for myself. You must not blame my aunt for telling me. Lydia betrayed it first. And then I couldn't rest till I knew everything. I know what trouble and what mortification it must have cost you. Please let me say this. Please allow me to thank you on behalf of all my family, since they don't know to whom they are indebted.
If you will thank me, let it be for yourself alone. Your family owes me nothing. Much as I respect them, I believe I thought only of you. You are too generous to trifle with me. If your feelings are what they were last April, tell me so at once. My affections and wishes are unchanged. But one word from you will silence me on this subject forever.
Oh, my feelings. My feelings are... I'm ashamed to remember what I said then. My feelings are so different. In fact, they are quite the opposite.
Lady Catherine told me of her meeting with you. I may say that her disclosure had quite the opposite effect to the one she intended. It taught me to hope as I'd scarcely ever allowed myself to hope before. I knew that had you absolutely decided against me, you would have acknowledged it openly.
Yes, you know enough of my frankness to believe me capable of that. After abusing you so abominably to your face, I could have no scruple in abusing you to all your relations.
What did you say of me that I did not deserve? My behavior to you at the time was unpardonable. I can hardly think of it without abhorrence. Your reproof I shall never forget. Had you behaved in a more gentlemanlike manner. You know not how those words have tortured me.
Not the smallest idea of their ever being taken in such a way.
I can easily believe it. You thought me devoid of every proper feeling. I'm sure you did. The turn of your countenance I shall never forget. You said that I could not have addressed you in any possible way that would induce you to accept me.
Oh, do not repeat what I said then.
No, I've been a selfish being all my life. As a child, I was given good principles, but was left to follow them in pride and conceit. And such I might still have been, but for you. Dearest, loveliest Elizabeth.
I know your disposition, Lizzy. My child, let me not have the grief of seeing you unable to respect your partner in life. He's rich, to be sure, but will he make you happy?
Have you any objections apart from your belief in my indifference?
None whatever. We all know him to be a proud, unpleasant sort of man. But this would be nothing if you really liked him.
I do. I do like him. I love him. Indeed, he has no improper pride. He's perfectly amiable. If you only knew his generous nature. I didn't always love him, but I love him now so very dearly. He is truly the best man I have ever known.
Well, my dear, if this be the case, he deserves you. I could not have parted with you to anyone less worthy, Lizzy.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here in the sight of God and in the face of this congregation to join together this man and this woman, and this man and this woman in holy matrimony, which is an honorable estate instituted by God in the time of man's innocency, signifying unto us the mystical union that is between Christ and his church, and therefore is not by any to be enterprised lightly or wantonly to satisfy man's carnal lusts and appetites, but reverently, discreetly, advisedly, soberly, and in the fear of God, duly considering the causes for which matrimony was ordained. First, it was ordained for the procreation of children. Secondly, as a remedy against sin and to avoid fornication. Thirdly, for the mutual society, help, and comfort that the one ought to have of the other, both in prosperity and adversity, into which holy estate these persons present come now to be joined.
to us.
Yes, so it would seem.